Hi everyone, Nick here. Just making a short video today showing you how to daisy chain your webhooks and your API calls as well as your ESP nodes. This was an issue we found yesterday. So overnight we've put through a fix and it is working beautifully. So I'll show you what my setup is, and it'll probably give you some idea in how to test these things so you don't have any issues, so you kind of know how to work through the issues, I guess is probably what I'm trying to say here. All right, so first I've just got a question is, are you a man or a woman? Very, very simple. If you've used LeadsHook for more than 10 minutes, then you'll know how to do this. This is using a multiple choice question. Are you a man or a woman? I've got a man and a woman, and I've picked the gender custom field to save the values into that by using basically that. So I've attached assigned gender as the field. Men are getting male. The woman answer is getting female into the custom field called gender. Right, that's pretty simple. That's what I've done is my first step. Cancel out of here. Second step, I've got a very basic form. Just added in name and email just by using this, name and email. And it's email first, name second, and basically just a very, very simple call to action, submit, nothing fancy here or nothing complicated. Right, cancel. Then I've got a decision node where all I've done is I've said that if you answer this question as man, I'm trying to split the men from the women, basically. Now, this could be any number of conditions. So in your real decision tree, or the ones that you create for your campaigns, you could have multiple conditions, and it could be based on the custom field you're updating. Could be a question and answer, or could be a tag that you've associated previously on any question or answer for that matter. Right, so that way you have quite a lot of choice here, and obviously the choice of any or all to see if the condition is satisfied or not. So in my case, I've just done a very simple one. Man or woman is men, and they get separated out in this path. So obviously that leaves the women to go down the no conditions path, but I could have added in a path here for men and women, in which case nothing will pass through no conditions, but there's no need to do that, because if half the traffic is coming, or if the men are coming over here, then obviously the women will turn up at the other one here. That applies across all conditions. So the reason why we have no conditions is because if you get your logic wrong, let's say you have something quite complicated, and we do have some users who get themselves in a bit of a pickle by having something quite complicated, and if you get the logic wrong, then you'll get people who get stuck inside this node. So that's the reason why we have no conditions. So if anything, worst case scenario, if your conditions are wrong, then they'll get passed through no conditions, and that's the reason why it's there. Right, so that way we don't allow you to delete it, because we don't want your leads to get stuck. In most cases, if you set up your conditions well, you probably don't need this at all, but we've left it in there in case someone gets stuck. Okay, so that's the decision node. Then what I've got is I've daisy chained 3 nodes on each side just to give it a good test. I'm firing to ActiveCampaign first, then I'm firing to a webhook, and then I'm firing to an API node. On the other side, I'm doing webhook, ActiveCampaign. So these have all been added from here, because that's my ActiveCampaign node right there. My webhook is over here. My API node is over here. And all I've done is something very, very simple. I use, excuse me, webhook.site. Each time you go to that URL, it will give you a URL to post to. And then I've just written some very basic JSON here. So I'll share that with you now. Right, so it's post. That's the URL which I grabbed from up here. And I'm building my JSON, really, really basic stuff. You need to have an opening curly bracket, you have a closed curly bracket. The variable that you're sending across to the third-party system is going to be whatever name you want to give it in double inverted commas, and this one here is going to be a custom field, and basically just follow that format. There's a comma, comma, comma. Make sure no comma on the last one, because then the JSON will be wrong. Now, what you can do now, we added this in a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months now maybe. You can test it out. So I can just fire this, and if these are variables, so that's what you should be doing. As soon as you set up your node, do a test. It'll ask you to put your name and email in. So I'm just going to put my trusty email that I use all the time. Some users don't like it. That's okay. All right. So Nick1234, and gender is who cares. Now, in your case, obviously, it's going to be, I'm just going to put anything in here and go done. And what it does, we'll fire the webhook in real time, and we'll these are the fields, the gender, that's the JSON that was passed, and you're looking for this status 200. To test also, if I'll go inside website.hook, because it is a real API at 5:31 p.m. today. There you go. It's worked. It liked it. Everything's good, and it's passed to 200. So I'm verifying it on both sides. I'm getting a 200 here, which means everything's working. I go over here, and everything is working, which means your integration is working, your setup is working, your JSON is correct, and therefore you can then move on to the next test. So I've done the same thing over here. Here I want to show you that. Next comes the ESP node. In case you're a new user, haven't quite used this, I'm using ActiveCampaign in this case. You select your account over here, you select the list you want to put the lead into, and then finally the form that you want to use. Now the form is quite important. One of the common mistakes we see with ActiveCampaign integrations is the form is not added because you're controlling your double opt-in and single opt-in status from your form settings inside ActiveCampaign, which is why you see a form over here. Not every ESP will have form. So for example, Aweber does not have this form drop-down. ActiveCampaign does because they control the double opt-in and single opt-in settings from your form. So whatever form you attach, make sure that you've set your double opt-in and single opt-in settings in there. All right, that's inside ActiveCampaign. Cool, so that's done. And lastly, I've just got a simple results page over here. All it has is a nice and simple thank you. That's it. Now I could have a redirect link over here and move out to an immediate redirect to Disney.com with your URL parameters, much like this one, and it'll insert this. If I was sending traffic to Disney, I could send all this data through to you, whatever the next page you are. Could be an affiliate offer, could be one of your own pages, could be any third-party platform and or your internal one, right? That's basically how you pass in the values. That's the variable in the third-party system. This is the custom field to replace the value and send it over through to your next app or system or platform you're using. So what you're doing here is if I pick men, I'm going to come down this path. I'm going to fire the lead to ActiveCampaign. Then I'm going to fire a webhook. Then I'm going to fire an API call. In this case, I'm using both as the same because I don't have any return API coming back. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Thank you, page. On this side, it's going to fire webhook, and then ActiveCampaign. So I just wanted to make sure. So my test here was to test that both work, that I don't order is not important, and that order should never be important in this case because you're just passing data to third-party systems. So if you're doing co-reg or you're selling leads to multiple parties or you are just sending leads to multiple systems because you want to keep a backup. So say you're, pushing some aggressive campaign, and you've got let's say you've got 2 ActiveCampaign accounts, then this could be ActiveCampaign account number 1, ActiveCampaign account number 2, and then this could be your webhook to somebody else. So similarly, these could all be third-party platforms. That could be third-party as well. You're sort of limited by what you want to do. It's your data. You can do what you want with it. Just if you are going to send data to more than one person, please make sure your terms and conditions and privacy policy and all that permission stuff that you need to get is taken care of properly. You don't want to get into trouble, especially if you're in the UK or the EU with GDPR, and I'm guessing in California now. Right, so just make sure that you're kind of above board with all this sort of stuff. It's not worth it to get your account closed down and or any legal issues. All right, so with that said, let me show you what this looks like. So I've done a test previously. So I'm going to show you, because I showed this one here, which was a real-time test. But basically, in my case, I've done a test here. It's passed to node 2A, passed to node 2B, which is this one and this one. And if you can see, my JSON is quite simple. I've got my email over here, my first name over here, my gender over here, and then just the static content. The reason why I'm doing this is so I can track and make sure that my API call is coming through. So because in this case, the lead is going to go through 2A and 2B, then I just want to make sure that I get that right. So it's 2A, 2B, which means that they're passing through here and here. Now, ActiveCampaign, I'm going to show you where to look for that. It's going to be under Leads and Leads. Let me just pause the video so I pull up the record. Okay, so these are a few of my tests that I've been doing. I'm going to show you this lead here. This is basically from Leads and Leads. You'll see the listing of all your leads. And as you can see, I've got 158,000. They're basically just tests that I've done over time. And I'll show you what this lead looks like. Okay, now to see the lead, which is this one here, I'm going to go through and just check. Yep, everything's gone through to ActiveCampaign because my transfer shows yes. And just to confirm all that, let's go through to the results page. My gender was female, and basically the impression ID, lead ID, and yeah. So anyway, my lead's gone through. Everything's good. Now, the other way to trace this issue is to scroll to the bottom, and you will see that I've got my webhook over here going to node 2A, bringing back a 200. So we save all of your API calls and requests, so you can trace it. If you're having any issues, you just scroll down and have a look. And that's my webhook doing post number 2, which is 2B, all right? And that's once again was a 200, and that came through. Yeah, so everything is working beautifully. Now, I will share a strategy with you that if you are going to, in order to use this, in order to troubleshoot this properly, what I normally like to do is not to use your third-party platform. So say, for example, you've got client API, clients are giving you API, all sorts of stuff like that. And if you're trying to solve too many problems at the same time, you're always, kind of bound to make mistakes. So the best thing to do is to use something like webhook.site. It's because the API call is very, very simple. It's simple JSON. Use these links and get the whole thing working first, right? Because it's very easy to trace. You can trace what's happening in ActiveCampaign. You can using the leads as well as inside ActiveCampaign. You can also trace what's happening by having these webhooks. Webhooks from here is nice and simple because you can verify it right away, right? As soon as I push through a webhook, I can see it over here to see what's happening, and that makes it really easy to troubleshoot. Just make sure that nothing is, that your decision tree is working, and you can get to this page. Now that you've done that, then what you can do is go and replace this with your client's APIs and your client's webhooks and your client's whatever third-party platform you want to integrate with. Because now if the leads don't transfer, then the issue is either something is wrong with the way you've set up your webhooks, or something is wrong with the client system, or they haven't given you the right permissions or something. It is nothing to do with LeadsHook at this point, and it's got nothing to do with your setup. All that is correct because you verified that by doing this, right? So I just wanted to kind of share that with you as a strategy to, when you're working with this sort of stuff, things can get quite complicated and you're putting all kinds of conditions in. Go back to first principles, start breaking it down, remove all the complexity of your client stuff, get it working with something as simple as webhook.site. Once you got that down pat, which means your decision tree is perfect, your webhooks are all firing, your leads are transferring like they should, now go and just replace it with your client's details. That way you've narrowed the problem down to what is happening on your client side, not specifically with any of your setup. Right, so I hope that gives you a good idea about, firstly, a little bit of the advanced feature inside LeadsHook, how you can do fancy things like transfer leads to multiple places. So if any of you doing co-reg type stuff, this would be a good way to do it, and also a strategy on how to set these things up and test them properly, so that you get to your campaigns live as fast as possible. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, please just post a bit of a comment and let me know that you're enjoying these kind of short trainings. Always happy to share them, and look forward to chatting with you guys soon. Cheers. Bye for now.